Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. We're just going to wait a minute or two to let all of the attendees arrive for the event. So bear with us here. We're starting to see the participants log on. So as we wait for the program to start, just bear with us as we let everyone sign on. So like I said, we're just going to wait another 30 seconds or so, let people log on before we get the event started. We're expecting over 100 people or close to 100 people to be in attendance today. So we're just going to wait another 30 seconds, 45 seconds, let all of the participants log on. I feel like we're back in COVID times when we were doing all of those Zoom webinars and having to wait for all of the instructions. So it's like relearning emergency skill sets all over again. Well, thanks everyone for signing on. We're going to wait just about another 20 seconds or so to get started. Let the last few participants log on. As folks are still logging on, if you're a member of the media and are looking to get a copy of the recording after the fact, you can reach out to myself or anyone that was listed on the press packet or the press advisory, and we'll make sure you get a copy of the recording if that's what you need. Okay, we're going to get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending the Labor Leading the Way press conference on New England offshore wind. My name is Patrick Crowley, and I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of the 80,000-member-strong Rhode Island AFL-CIO, coming to you from Providence, the home of the first climate job city in America. Our run of show today lasts a little over 40 minutes, with several different speakers, followed by a question and answer period. One of our organizers will put the instructions for asking questions in the chat. And if you are interested in taking action to support offshore wind development, you can also click the second link in the chat to send a message to key decision makers. In a little more than 10 days, the states of Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island will be closing bids on a massive 6 gigawatt offshore wind proposal. Once these turbines are in the water and delivering electrons to the grid, we will take a giant step forward towards meeting President Biden's goal of creating 30 gigawatts of offshore wind by the year 2030. And we in the labor movement want to make sure that this takes place. We're here today because in southern New England, we were the home of the nation's first industrial revolution. Right around the corner from my union hall is Slater Mill, the first factory in America. It was our region that created the wealth that made America the economic powerhouse that it is today. But that first revolution led to massive exploitation of workers and the environment. Now we're on the verge of a new industrial revolution, an offshore wind, clean energy revolution. And this time, we're going to get it right, because this time it's going to be worker-led and committed to healing the environment. There are 830,000 union members across our 3 states. And today, you're going to be hearing from labor leaders from Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, as well as rank-and-file offshore wind workers and allies in the environmental movement. But first, it is my honor to introduce our leadoff speaker, the national leader of our labor movement, 12 million members strong, my sister, AFL-CIO President Elizabeth Schuler. Liz.
All right. Thank you so much, Patrick. Good morning and happy Friday. Just want to say thank you to Patrick, first of all, for bringing us together. I'm going to say your pioneering leadership is what got us here, along with our State Federation leaders in the region. And Ed, thanks for being on. I was going to say also to Michael, you Rhode Islanders stick together, but truly it was your pioneering spirit that really supercharged this industry. I just want to say thank you to Frank and Keith and Ryan and all the leaders on this call. I think the biggest thanks actually will go to though Braden and Tyler, who we're going to hear from later, our fearless members, workers who are going to be talking with us a little later about their experiences and their hopes for this industry and for the region. So it's an honor to be with you here today. This group of leaders has been charging forward on offshore wind, on climate issues, most of all on good union jobs. And it's infectious, it's contagious. That's what we're hoping to build all across this country. And that's why I wanted to be here this morning. I just wanted to reflect on this moment, how we got here and what the future could look like. I was thinking this morning about the trip I took in 2019. I went to Europe, and we were working with our sister unions in Denmark, in Norway, to leverage our collective power, right? Because we knew that those companies overseas were building here in the US. And we said, we want to use our power of 12.5 million workers, 60 unions, to talk directly with some of the largest renewable energy companies in the world about exporting high road labor standards, you know, the partnerships that they have in those countries with their unions, and make sure that when they build and operate in the US, that they're using that same high road model. And what I learned on that trip, and of course the work that we launched together afterwards, was that I saw the future. I saw what could be possible, that workers and their unions could shape the future, like you said, Patrick, not just react to it, that we can actually have clean energy industries that are full of good union jobs, just like we did in the fossil fuel industry, that we struggled so hard to make sure those dangerous jobs that we knew were difficult jobs and hard on workers, we were able to make those good union jobs through our struggles. We're going to do the same thing in this renewable energy industry. So fast forward to today, labor united from the national level all across to these 3 states and all parts of the economy. We are together. We're together calling on this administration, calling on the governors and these offshore wind companies to deliver big on a new industry for this region and frankly for the United States, and deliver on good union jobs. And the 6 gigawatts of clean energy, of course, but also a made in the USA supply chain that goes along with it. Thousands of good union jobs across that footprint, and operations and maintenance and beyond. And this is going to transform lives. It's going to bring opportunities to young people, to Black and brown workers, women, building on these 3 projects, the first offshore wind projects in the US here in this region. So early on, the Biden administration, as we know, set a very ambitious goal for offshore wind. US unions helped shape that goal. We supported it. We saw the potential for hundreds of thousands of good union jobs. Also, from building ships and turbines in the US to building and running the projects onshore and off. So now, as the president would say, we're going to finish the job. Last year was a challenging year. Let's not, get cute about it. It was a challenging year for offshore wind. But we believe we're turning the corner. 3 offshore wind projects in this region up and running, 2 big and groundbreaking projects in New York that are moving, another big project in Virginia, a pipeline of projects a little later than we wanted, but they are there. And with unions that are going to organize these jobs, we've been in constant communication with the Biden administration, and we're bringing a shared set of demands and the power of our movement to make sure that we are getting good union jobs across this sector, getting these projects built, and getting that US supply chain. So that's why I really wanted to be here to emphasize, this is across the entirety of the industry. We've talked to the developers as well, the companies that should be building the supply chain here. We want them to know we're ready to work with everyone who commits to a high road future with good union jobs. So let's build it together. US labor is 100% behind offshore wind, behind this offshore wind procurement and the bold action of the governors who are doing it, and behind the Biden administration's offshore wind goals. So thank you again, Pat. Thank you, everyone. We are ready to build the future with you in this region. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, President Shula, for your leadership, especially in this field. You know, it's an honor to have you as our national president. Next, I'd like to introduce my brother from Rhode Island, Michael Sabatoni, who's the General Secretary Treasurer of the Laborers International Union of North America, and also the President of the Rhode Island Building Trades. Michael, it's all yours.
Well, Patrick, thank you. And first, let me say as well, President Shula, thank you for your leadership and commitment from the AFL-CIO. You were with us from day one and saw the importance of labor's role to play in our green economy, especially with the offshore wind industry. So I want to thank you for all of your support. And Patrick, all of the hard work that you've done here locally in Rhode Island on behalf of the Rhode Island AFL-CIO, and the commitment that we've got through climate jobs, Rhode Island, a lot of the things and the success that we've had recently would have not have happened without your commitment and determination. So I want to thank you as well. My two brothers that you're going to hear from very shortly from Massachusetts and Connecticut. You know, our approach to this industry has always been a regional approach, even back when we started the Block Island wind conversations in 2007. We knew that it was just a starting point and this industry would continue to grow. And Frank and Keith have been with me every step of the way. We're in constant communication on how we coordinate our efforts here regionally in Southern New England. And they've been, at the forefront of all of the discussions that we've had on how we can continue to pursue this industry, create the supply chain. In addition to that, also create jobs, creating port infrastructure via construction necessary to support the industry. So I can't wait to hear from you, Frank and Keith, as well. And thank you for your vision and commitment on this as well. And I have to also give a shout out to my general president, Brent Booker, who back when he was, we only lent him to the National Building Trades for a little bit of time. And I always knew he was coming back home to Liuna and was so fortunate to have him back. But it was Sean McGarvey as president of NAB2, as well as Secretary Treasurer Booker, that also saw the vision in this industry where labor had a role to play and embraced the green economy going forward and the green jobs. I have a saying, I don't care what color a job is. A job is a job. If they're green, that's great as well. So as long as they're paying the same standards, we don't care. But it was Brent who took the lead to negotiate the first national offshore wind agreement that has set us in motion as a template for any developer, any energy company that wants to develop offshore wind, to use that as our template on how we're going to service this industry, because it is a little bit different than what we're accustomed to. But the skill set that we have as men and women in the building trades are the same. We just have to add additional enhancements to our already skill set in working in a different environment, which is offshore. So I'm damn proud of what Brent and Sean have accomplished. And again, that approach, I think, is what's going to make us successful, because just like we service our traditional energy industries, as we start to skill up and enhance our already honed in skills as the building trades, people that enter this industry, as long as we have a continuity of employment, which is coming. I know President Shula just mentioned the last year, because of interest rates and some other pressures, have been a little bit challenging, but we are going to get there. And the approach that we've put in place, the plan that we have in place, from the National Building Trades that filters down to the local affiliates, will allow us to supply this industry. And as the continuity of projects increase, our men and women will follow these projects and get into this industry, not only to continue to construct, but also maintain the offshore grid as we construct it. So there's so many exciting things that are going on. And one of the things that I also like to say, it's not only what we build, but it's how we build it, regardless of what it is. And I think the other thing that's really important I want to mention this morning is our insistence and our commitment to also expanding opportunities via pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship, especially in some disadvantaged populations, which we've done here in Rhode Island through Building Futures. And I know that Frank and Keith have done the same thing in Massachusetts and Connecticut, to offer opportunities to young men and women to enter the building trades through pre-apprenticeship and then registered apprenticeship programs, so that we can continue to pipeline the men and women necessary to service this industry. And that's really exciting as well. And one of the last things I'll comment on that I'm really proud of that we also accomplished here in Rhode Island is we brought all of the stakeholders together to I think it's one of the first in the nation, or is the first in the nation, to have our GWO training actually at the Community College of Rhode Island. And that was no easy task, but I like to say that when we bring the stakeholders together, we find a way to get to yes. And that was a collaboration of the developer in Orsted, the Department of Administration, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Labor, the building trades, building futures. I mean, you name it, they were there. And that the Department of Commerce, and that collaboration now, there is a class right now that is taking the first GWO training in a decent capacity here in the state of Rhode Island. And we're going to continue to pipeline men and women through that program. And we're really proud of that as well. But none of that happens without the people that are on this call today. Some of I have mentioned, and I'm sure some that are also listening. So as the birthplace of offshore wind in Rhode Island, I couldn't be more proud of, when we were shepherding this first project through the Public Utilities Commission and the State House. It wasn't that popular. It's popular now, but I remember a lot of lonely nights when the building trades were the only advocate, believe it or not, to shepherd this project, to prove that we could do this in this country. And now look where we are today. So I'm extremely proud of that. And I'm really proud to share some time with you all here this morning on what's exciting as we make sure that we get our energy future correct in this country. So with that, I will turn it back over to Pat and just say, thank you all for your commitment, not only to what we build, but how we build it, and just to make sure that that the men and women that are going to enter this industry will be able to do so with family sustaining wages and benefits the correct way, like the building trades have been doing it for well over 100 years. So thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Sabatoni, and thank you so much for your leadership in this area. I'm now going to turn things over to Frank Callahan. Frank is the president of the Massachusetts Building Trades Unions and a key leader in this area. Frank?
Thank you, Pat. Thanks for setting this up. And before I begin, thank you, President Schuler, for your continued leadership, not just on this, but on so many other issues for America's workers. And President Sabatoni, Secretary Treasurer Sabatoni, thank you for leading the way for us. Patrick said at the beginning about the Industrial Revolution, we always play catch up when a new industry comes in. And as you aptly stated, then we have to make them into good jobs. We're on the ground floor, on the ocean floor, I should say, with offshore wind here in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, and elsewhere. And, I remember 20 years ago, 20 years plus, with Cape Wind was a project. And that failed for a variety of reasons. And there were a number of stops and starts. While we were doing our stops and starts here in the United States, over in Europe, they were doing them a full bore. So by the time they got here with our partners, that we've negotiated a successful project labor agreement for Vineyard Wind, which is under construction, they were a mature industry. And we were fearful that they were just going to come over here, stick the turbines in the ocean floor, run some cable, we might get some jobs on shore, and then they'd go home or go on to the next project. With the leadership of Secretary Treasurer Sabatoni, Brent Booker, Sean McGarvey, and President Schuler, we were able to head that off. And with some friends in the political arena as well, and make sure that those were built not just by American workers, but American workers with a union card in their pockets. And the big difficulty in getting them to the table and getting to that point was, as I said, they had a mature industry. They didn't understand us. We didn't understand them. And the real breakthrough that came in the negotiations when we finally took them to our apprenticeship training facilities. We did tours at the laborers in Hopkinton for the operating engineers, for the electricians, and their eyes were thrown wide open, and they realized that we had the skilled workforce that was needed to do the job. Now, a project labor agreement, in this case with Vineyard Wind and others we're in current negotiations with, both for offshore wind, for the construction of the port facilities, like the one in New Bedford, which was built under a project labor agreement. We have the ability to ensure all the things President Schuler talked about earlier: a diverse workforce, a skilled workforce, a workforce that has family-sustaining wages and benefits, good health care, retirement security, safe working conditions, everything that comes with that union card I mentioned that they have in their back pocket. So we're making sure that in addition to cleaning up our environment, cleaning up our energy grid, something I think everybody on this call and those who aren't here are in support of, we're making sure it's done right. I think you said that earlier, Patrick, to make sure that it's done to the maximum benefit for the community, to make sure that we have a good economic development, and that's what this can be. So we've been working, as Patrick said, with all the developers, North America's building trades unions with the leadership of Sean McGarvey, Brent Booker, and now Brandon Bishop, have really been working hard for the offshore components. We continue our efforts here in Massachusetts, and I think it's very important what Secretary Treasurer Sabatoni mentioned, the cooperative effort. You know, this isn't a competition between Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, and other states in New England and across the country. We're all pulling in the same direction because we know these power grids, and particularly in New England, is one grid. Whatever happens in Massachusetts impacts my brothers and sisters in Rhode Island and Connecticut and Maine. And it's very, very important that we continue to pull together to make sure that as this industry takes off, it's not just to the benefit of the climate, but it's also to the benefit of our larger economy and certainly to the benefit of our members and future members. Shout out to President Schuler for her great work on organizing. We're bringing in new people, traditionally underserved populations through, in our case, Building Pathways South, Building Pathways in Boston, to make sure that more women and people of color and underserved communities are represented in our unions to enjoy all those benefits that have been mentioned. And just to put a finer point on this, we just did a presentation this week on it. Just in Massachusetts, and I know it's very similar, if not identical, in Rhode Island and Connecticut, we train 74% of all registered apprentices in the state of Massachusetts. We train 80% of all apprentices of color in Massachusetts, and we train 88% of all women apprentices in Massachusetts in the construction trades. So they enjoy all of those things, and I won't repeat, that we bring with a collective bargaining agreement with a union contract. We're very excited. We're looking forward as this industry takes off, and I was just invited to do a tour. I haven't been offshore yet for the new Vineyard Wind project. I have seen yours, Michael, down in Rhode Island at Block Island, but I'm looking forward with great anticipation. And more importantly, I'm looking forward to the new membership and the benefits that this brings to our economies. Thank you.
Thank you, President Callahan, for those inspiring words. The key point of that is the labor movement is uniquely positioned to get this 6 megawatts of offshore wind built because of our 830,000 members in the region, but also we're not in competition with each other. We are working across the state borders and across jurisdictional lines to make sure this industry grows and grows union. So with that, I'd like to turn things over to an example of that, a leader from our neighboring state of Connecticut, the president of the AFL-CIO in the state of Connecticut, my brother, Ed Hawthorne. Ed?
Thank you, Patrick, and good morning, everyone. Today we gather to shine a spotlight on the urgent need to address the dual crisis of climate change and economic inequality. These two pressing issues are becoming increasingly intertwined as everyday working people are dealing with extreme weather caused by climate change throughout our country. As a state, we've set ambitious climate goals. These goals aren't merely targets, they're moral imperatives. There's not a day that goes by when I don't worry about the world we're going to leave behind to my daughters who are 10 and 7. I stand before you today to affirm the labor movement's commitment to fight climate change and to emphasize how vital it is that we take a pro-worker approach to achieving a carbon neutral economy. Climate change isn't some distant threat. It's impacting us here and now. Our response to this crisis, starting with the expansion of sustainable projects like offshore wind energy, offers not just an environmental lifeline, but an economic opportunity unlike any we've seen in generations. The construction of offshore wind farms represents a beacon of progress for our energy sector. We are not simply talking about reducing carbon emissions. We're imagining a future where renewable energy projects power our homes, our industries, and create a new era of opportunities for American workers. However, as we stand at the edge of the green revolution, we must stress the importance of a pro-worker approach to meeting our climate goals. It is paramount that this transition to a greener economy is equitable, just, and inclusive. Workers must not only be part of this conversation, they must be at the forefront, driving policy and ensuring that green jobs created are good union jobs that offer fair wages, benefits, and safe working conditions. That is why the labor movement in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and throughout our country stand united in this effort. Labor standards in the offshore wind sector must set a high benchmark. We demand that every job in this growing field provides the prevailing wage, respect for workers' right to organize through card check neutrality agreements, project labor agreements with strong local hire provisions, domestic manufacturing with strong labor standards, and joint and labor management apprentice programs for all construction trades. By embedding these labor standards, we can guarantee that the green economy not only addresses climate change, but lifts up workers and their families and doesn't leave them behind. A pro-worker approach isn't merely a labor-friendly policy. It is economic wisdom. These are not just jobs. These are careers that will play a pivotal role in the health of our planet and the longevity of the communities that we live in. Workers who will be installing turbines out at sea, maintaining wind farms, and creating the infrastructure that supports them deserve the security of knowing that their hard work is not only contributing to a greener planet, but also to a more stable and prosperous future for themselves and their families. In this fight against climate change, there are no sidelines. It is imperative that we work together, government, business, and labor, to forge a sustainable path forward where economic growth and climate action are mutually reinforcing. Together, we will build the world we believe in, a world where progress includes everyone, where workers thrive in tandem with the environment, and where the future is not just greener, but also brighter for all. Thank you. And I'll turn it back to my brother, Patrick.
Thank you, Brother Hawthorne, for those inspiring words. It's been remarkable to work together with you and our partners across the region to get this to happen. Next, allow me to introduce Keith Brothers. Keith is the president of the Connecticut State Building and Construction Trades Association and a strong union leader in this industry, and someone who I know is going to help us make sure that we get the 6 gigawatt projects done and accomplished over the next few months. Brother, take it away.
Thank you, Pat. So good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with everyone, and what a great team we have. I mean, as a labor leader, to sit on this panel and to talk this morning about what's going on in Connecticut and our partnership. So Liz Schuler, great to hear from you. Your leadership is what we're looking for throughout not only with the offshore wind, but everything we do in organized labor. And Pat and Ed, again, whatever we need in Connecticut, Ed's my hometown guy, but Pat as well. We've had some great conversations, and thank you for what you do. And my brothers in the building trades, Michael and Frank, you guys are great. I mean, the things we do together and collectively, no question is unanswered. If I need a question or some intel from you guys, you're always there for me. And, personal point of privilege, Michael, as a LIUNA brother and a general secretary treasurer of LIUNA, everything you do is for the working families that I represent in LIUNA in my building trades role as well. So thank you for what you do. And in Connecticut, we're excited. We've been talking and dealing with offshore wind for years now. And our federal delegation, Congressman Courtney, Representative Senator Blumenthal, Senator Murphy, everybody is on board, lockstep with what we do and how we do it. And the most important thing we need to keep our eyes on is, as these jobs are created, we create the PLAs that are worker friendly. We take into consideration how the technology is changing in some of the work we're doing. The recent PLA I signed in New London on the towers we built, some of the technology changed in those towers. The elevator constructor didn't have the role he had in Rhode Island. The painter didn't have the roles he had in the projects in Rhode Island. So the jobs shrunk in Connecticut. We have to really keep an eye on what we're doing moving forward and make sure these developers are accountable that these jobs stay local. We create more jobs, not only with the assembly, but also maybe manufacturing the parts and pieces that go along with the assembly. So that's what we're really looking at in Connecticut. Our training goals in Connecticut, we have a group called the Connecticut Building Trades Training Institute. That's our workforce development group. It's based out of Hartford, Connecticut. We visit inner cities, we visit tech schools. That's how we're gaining and retaining some of the local people that we need, not only in New London, where the project's going to be going on, but also throughout the state of Connecticut, and creating those opportunities. And we talk about opportunities, sometimes we're the best kept secret, right? The building trades. It's earn as you learn. There's no college debt. Men and women come into the trade and they learn, they earn as they learn. So it's really important that we educate local tech schools and people that are coming into that trade group that don't really know who the building trades are. And I know Mike and Frank are doing a great job in Massachusetts, and my team in Connecticut is doing the same. So, we're excited. There are a lot of good things happening. We could really be excited about what's in front of us, but we really need to keep an eye on other things that are happening around us and stay in this collective arena. We need to stay collectively having the same message as our NAB2 affiliates and all the people out of Washington. And we're really, really excited in Connecticut about what's coming next. The good news is that the governor of the state of Connecticut, probably the most labor-friendly governors in the country, he's a phone call away from me. If I need something from Governor Lamont, he's listening, he's taking notes, his staff's listening and taking notes, and he's excited about what's happening. We've had Secretary Gronholm in Connecticut, Secretary Walsh, when he was the labor secretary, visited Connecticut, and everything we're doing and everything we're charging forward on in Connecticut is something that everybody in the country is looking at. And as I said earlier in my comments, the team we have assembled here today, the sky's the limit. And I really appreciate everybody's work and everybody's dedication to what we're doing moving forward. So with that, I'll close and thank you, Pat, and look forward to answering any questions.
Thank you, President Brothers. I mean, you're absolutely right. One of the reasons why we're here today is because these three states have three solid pro-union, pro-labor Democratic governors. And we want to work with partnership with the three administrations and the three governors' office and all of the developers that we'll talk about a little bit more to make sure that we get this done. Because it's about the working class. It's about working people. And right now, we actually have several workers that have joined us today to talk about their experience working in the offshore wind industry. The first person I'd like to introduce is Brayton Witherell, who's been working on the offshore wind project out of the Port of Rhode Island. So Brayton, why don't you share with us a few words about your experience?
Hi, everybody. My name is Brayton Witherell. I'm an iron worker out of Local 37. I've been in the union now for 3 years. Currently working on the offshore wind farm for Martha's Vineyard, or off of Martha's Vineyard, sorry, Vineyard Wind. Yeah, we've been out for 6 rotations now, I think, and it's definitely a cool experience. It's a lot different than working on land. Everybody out there works well together. It's just like, sorry, first press conference, a little bit nervous. Yeah, it's a cool experience. It's, first in the water. It's a lot bigger than Block Island. It's the very first of these turbines that are going up. And I'm happy to see, like, this is bringing a lot of union jobs. Hopefully it continues all through up and down the East Coast. Yeah, it's a great project to be a part of, and I really appreciate me being here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Brother Brayton. I mean, it's great to see you there. And listen, iron workers, painters, operating engineers, laborers, elevator constructors, we got a lot of people that are working in this field. And thank you for taking the time off in your day off to speak with us today. Now I'd like to introduce another brother from Local 37, Tyler Tripp, to talk about his experience in the same industry. Tyler?
Good morning. I'm Tyler Tripp. I'm a journeyman iron worker out of Local 37. I've been in the trade since 2018 as an apprentice. I started, and I've been on the structural side ever since. It's opened a lot of doors, and that led me to the wind. It's a great experience out there. It's a lot of unknown in the industry, and I'm glad that we have the spots that we do have out there. And I think it's crucial to prove that we deserve to be out there. And going forward, I think the standards that we bring to the table are setting the groundwork and creating a good foundation for where this industry is going to go. And I think it's important that we maintain that.
Great. Thank you, Brother Tyler. Really appreciate it. To see both of you guys on this press conference today is just testament to what we're really talking about, creating good union family sustaining jobs, not just for the short term, but for the long term as we build out this industry. Our last speaker today is a very good friend of ours of the labor movement here in Rhode Island. If you had said to me 5 years ago that the labor movement and the environmental movement would be locked hand in hand, trying to make sure that we create a new economy based upon a just transition for workers, no one would have believed me. But it's true, it's happening. And I'd like to introduce one of the main reasons why that is, an incredible leader in the Rhode Island labor movement, my friend Amanda Barker from Green Energy Consumers Alliance. Amanda?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Pat. We're really happy to be here today. As Pat said, I am the Rhode Island policy advocate at Green Energy Consumers Alliance. We are an environmental nonprofit in Rhode Island and Massachusetts with a mission to speed a just transition to a zero carbon future. And I'm also the Rhode Island state lead for the New England for Offshore Wind Coalition, which is a regional coalition that is committed to combating climate change by advocating for the responsible development of offshore wind. And we're very happy to be partnering with labor on this issue. Offshore wind is the biggest lever that we can pull to address the climate crisis here in New England. And we are very uniquely well positioned to harness the full potential of offshore wind. We have, very densely populated coasts with high energy demand near the shore. We have shallow water on our continental shelf, which is ideal for the turbines. And we have some of the strongest winds in the world right off of our coast. And Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island all have science-backed emissions reduction mandates to do their part to mitigate climate change. And offshore wind is absolutely critical in achieving those emissions reductions. But not only does offshore wind have tremendous climate mitigation potential, it also has tremendous potential to strengthen our economy and create high-quality jobs. As we transition away from fossil fuels, it is vital that we provide high-quality jobs for underserved communities and impacted workers. And developers must ensure a just transition by creating project labor agreements for the construction, operation, and maintenance of their projects. Climate change is the biggest threat that we're facing, but it also presents a big opportunity. Offshore wind not only has a huge potential to mitigate climate change, but has a huge potential for jobs and improving the economy. We're proud to be working with unions to make sure clean energy investments create high quality jobs while simultaneously meeting our climate goals. So thank you for having me, and I'll pass it back off to Pat.
Thank you, Amanda. You're right. Your organization, along with the rest of the environmental movement in the three-state area, has been an inspiration to us in the labor movement as well. So just to wrap things up before we take questions, if anyone has any, and what we've done is that this group of 3 states, the state federations and the state building trades councils, have sent letters to the 4 developers that we believe are going to be submitting bids for the 6 gigawatts of offshore wind. Those developers include Vineyard Offshore, Ørsted, South Coast, and Avangrid. And we are looking forward to continued communication with all of them. We've also reached out to the 3 governors' offices to let them know that we are willing to work with them to make sure that we get these projects approved, over the finish line, and built in a timely fashion. So thank you, everyone, for participating today. Thank you to my brothers and sisters on the call. And with that, we will open it up for questions. And I know the instructions were put in the chat. So if anyone has any questions, feel free. Okay. Well, we're not seeing any questions right now. If you would like to follow up on anything regarding something that you heard today with the from the participants, the contact information was on the press advisory. And if you don't have the press advisory available, you can always reach out to myself. My email address is patrick@riaflcio.org. And again, if you're willing to put your name to paper or name to email, you can click on the link that's in the chat and send an email to decision makers to make sure that they approve these offshore wind developments, and we build this industry union, and we build it now. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, brothers and sisters, again, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.